What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today in left-wing activist world, check this out, y'all. The EPA can't end grants from $20 billion Biden-era fund for climate-friendly projects, a judge says. So that's right. So I don't know if you guys remember a video I covered like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. You know, Lee Zeldin comes out and says he's cutting off funding for this XX program, blah, 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 whatever it may be. Some sort of climate agenda nonsense funded from the Inflation Reduction Act, which, come to find out, you know, we found out not long after that, as a matter of fact, that the Inflation Reduction Act was simply inducing inflation, but mostly because it's printing government dollars to fund climate nonsense, as a matter of fact. And what are the results of a lot of this climate nonsense? We don't know. We have no idea. We never see results from billions and billions of dollars going to fund climate projects, as a matter of fact. We never ever see the results of these, right? And like I said, I said in my last video, I think some of these projects, some of these like wind farms, it's like a shell game, if you will, that they say, oh, we need billions of dollars for this wind farm or whatever. And then they put up some turbines or whatever, and then you just dole out the rest of that money to like protect democracy or something that goes and funds lawsuits against the Trump administration to get back Kilmar Albrego Garcia. I bet you didn't think I was going to bring him up, did you? But that's how it happens, folks. You get a climate zealot over here, gets a grant from the EPA and says, hang on, let's do this a little bit with the money, and then let's fund this lawsuit that sues the government. Thanks, Lee Zeldin. But, you know, I will say the Trump administration is definitely trying to kneecap, if you will, the apparatus by which Democrats fund all their pet projects. And this is a good thing, folks, because all this is being done in a deficit on printed dollars. Let's get into it. A federal judge says some nonprofits awarded billions for a so-called green bank to finance clean energy and climate-friendly projects cannot have their contracts scrapped and must have access to some of the frozen money. Now, this is good because we don't know exactly how much yet, or at least I don't remember reading this in the article. It might be there, so I might be putting my foot in my mouth when I say this. That to me sounds like, okay, so the judge didn't free up all that money. At least he didn't free up all that money. At least. Right. The ruling is a defeat for President Donald Trump's Environmental Protection Agency, which argues the program is rife with financial mismanagement. Yeah, I would say so, because once again, once this money goes out to these nonprofits, these green energy groups, or anything that a government grant goes to, oversight is cut almost completely. Right? There's a little bit of oversight, but it's not near to the extent that it would be if it was the EPA doing it, or, you know, another government agency doing it. They can give money to Act Blue if they want to, for crying out loud. They absolutely can do this and say, oh, well, that was money from somewhere else. Blah, 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 blah. The order late Tuesday by U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan, oh, does that name sound familiar to anybody? Gives us a chance to breathe after the EPA unlawfully and without due process terminated our awards and blocked access to funds that were appropriated by Congress and legally obligated, said Climate United CEO Beth Bafford. You love how they throw that in there. Oh, it was apportioned by Congress. No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, that was apportioned by the Biden administration. Congress approved the EPA's budget, right? That was part of the Inflation Reduction Act, to give the EPA X amount of dollars for grants to give out to so-and-so, right? So, sure, that funding was congressionally approved, but not necessarily for you. That's what they never tell you, folks, when they say, oh, it's congressionally approved, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the administration decides where that money goes, actually, for the most part. Now, I'm not saying that all legislation is like that. No, sure, That's why we get 6,000 pages of CR nonsense, right? Because sometimes Congress does specifically appropriate certain money to go to certain places, but probably not here. That's what I'm gonna say. That's speculation, by the way. I'll say, but 90% of all the money that Congress approves, the funding that they approve, is actually simply approved to the agency, and then the agency decides where that money goes. So just based on statistics is what I'm basing my speculation on. Put it that way. Tanya Chuckin. Lovely. The lawsuit by Climate United Fund and other groups contends that the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin and Citibank, which held the grant money, illegally blocked the funds awarded last year and had jeopardized the organization's operations. Who cares at this point? We don't care. Like, any Trump supporter does not care. Any regular average American does not care. When you tell them that all of this money has to be just printed out of thin air, has to be just made up, diluting the power of your dollar to purchase groceries. Yeah, I'm sure they'd be like, what is this judge thinking? I mean, we do not need all of these nonsense green projects. Chutkin said Citibank must provide the money that was due to the nonprofits before the EPA had frozen their accounts in mid-February. The EPA immediately appealed. Yes, of course. The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, commonly referred to as Green Bank, was authorized by the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act under Democratic President Joe Biden. Its goals run counter to the Trump administration's opposition to climate-friendly policies and its embrace of fossil fuels. No, I'm sorry, the Trump administration doesn't run in opposition to climate-friendly policies. They run in opposition to just doling out federal dollars to just anybody for any reason without good reasoning behind it, as a matter of fact. And its embrace. Its goals run counter to its embrace of fossil fuels. That's funny how they phrased that. Zeldin quickly made the bank a target, characterizing the $20 billion in grants as a gold bar scheme marred by conflicts of interest and potential fraud. Oh, get this. A federal prosecutor resigned after being asked to open a criminal investigation, saying there was not enough evidence to move ahead. Get this, folks. Okay, so the EPA comes to a federal investigator, right, and says, look, I think there's some conflicts of interest going on here and potential fraud. And the investigator quits. There's not enough evidence to open an investigation. Now, since when has the government needed probable cause to open an investigation? That's where you get the probable cause from, as a matter of fact. Now, I understand how things work. I understand. But I think, just personally, if you will, my opinion, that, you know, if there's any sort of conflict of interest or any sort of potential fraud that was uncovered by Lee Zeldin, anything is enough for an investigation. Especially when it comes, you know, when it pertains to federal dollars that were given out for a specific reason. Right? If this money was doled out to go to green energy projects, I think it's incumbent upon federal investigators to make sure that that money actually goes. Like, we want the receipts. That's it. We just want to see those receipts and make sure that money goes to where we said it was going to go. Because how do Congress go back to their constituents and say, we know where all of your money goes, when there's over $1 trillion a year that the federal government has no idea where it goes? That's fascinating, isn't it? Don't you think we need some sort of accountability behind that? Like a paper trail, something. We just want the receipts. Hey, we understand, look, the government has to spend a lot of money, and it wastes a lot more. But we want to know what it was wasted on. We want to know where that money went. Instead, we get these activist judges saying, no, you got to give that money out. Why? They never explain why. A federal investigator, a prosecutor, quit his job because he was asked to investigate something. And you wonder why Trump is going around firing people. It's nonsense, y'all. Absolute nonsense. The FBI and Treasury Department, in coordination with the EPA, pressured Citibank to freeze the grants, which it did, according to the nonprofits. Last month, Zeldin announced the termination of the grants, saying, well-documented incidents of misconduct, conflicts of interest, and potential fraud raise significant concerns and pose unacceptable risk. Chutkan paused that move, saying the government provided no significant evidence of wrongdoing. No significant evidence of wrongdoing. Okay, so get this, folks. So Lee Zeldin goes to federal investigators and says, look, I've got some concerns here. Can you open an investigation? This person quits, so there's no investigation. So when they go and bring whatever evidence, they're like, oh, there's no significant evidence. Significant evidence. There was no investigation. That was a month ago. It is insane how the corporate press drums all this nonsense up. The investigator quit. You might say, well, they just found another investigator. Do you think that's enough time to investigate all this? No. As a matter of fact, it's not. This is insane, y'all. They don't give them enough time to conduct a full-on investigation after concerns are raised that, hey, there's possible fraud here. And then they say in court documents, oh, there's no significant evidence. Well, if there's any evidence at all, don't you think that warrants an investigation? I'm just saying. But the Republican administration in a recent filing asserted it was allowed to end the contracts based on oversight concerns and shifting priorities. I agree with that, but hey. EPA's new admission that it did not terminate the plaintiff's noncompliance confirms that EPA's invocation of waste, fraud, and abuse was arbitrary and pretextual. Oh, it's conclusory! The nonprofit said in court filings. I love that. I love that. Oh, well, that's a conclusory statement. Yes! We are concluding that there's possible fraud. We want an investigation, damn it, and we're freezing the funding until we get one. And the judge says, no investigation. Gotta love it, y'all. Got to love it. This is why I call Democrats evil. This is why I say these judges are activists. Molly Vasilou, the EPA's Associate Administrator for Public Affairs, contended that the court lacked the power to reinstate the money. She did not provide any new evidence and repeated unsubstantiated allegations of program abuse and conflicts of interest. Oh, are they unsubstantiated? Well, you know what? We had a prosecutor quit to substantiate those claims, by the way. And we haven't had enough time to substantiate our evidence yet. Insane, y'all. Insane. But this is media manipulation 101. We could not be more confident in the merits of your appeal, she said in a statement. The government has told us the court case is just a run-of-the-mill, albeit large, contract dispute. The argument is important because it could move the case to a different court that can only award a lump sum and not force the government to keep the grants in place. Yay. Now, I guess that's where just some of the money is coming into place. I guess, but, you know, I can't stand all this nonsense. Sorry, I had to swallow. You know, all this money going out and all these, you know, non-governmental bodies, organizations, whatever they may be, suing the government to get government money. That aggravates me till no end. And these judges are like, yes, feed this money right into the wood chipper over here. It's like, what are we doing, folks? We are running afoul of our oath to the Constitution, our oath to the American taxpayer. We are running afoul to everything that is fiscal responsibility in this country. And these people are all propping it up. As a matter of fact, they're inducing more of it. It is aggravating till no end, illogical as hell, and it makes just plain no damn sense. It makes you ask, where did these people parachute in from? Like, what planet do they come from where they think that, $1.8 trillion deficit spending is okay? And that, if there's just a little bit of evidence of possible fraud, that's okay. That just because there's no substantial evidence, that, yeah, we'll go ahead and allow these fraudsters to continue conducting fraud over here. Possibly, right? Who ever thought that that's a good idea? Like, what is wrong with an investigation, folks? Why would a federal prosecutor resign from their job over being asked to investigate something? Now, I can see, I understand, if you were asked to actually prosecute somebody and you knew for a fact that they were innocent, or it was violating the Constitution in some sort of a way. But what sort of investigation into possible fraud could violate somebody's oath to the Constitution, violate somebody's ethics codes, for crying out loud? Like, I understand they have a code of ethics, but if there's any evidence at all of possible fraud, of government money going to a green project, for crying out loud, something that is totally unnecessary, I just don't see where the problem is. I don't see why somebody would resign for that, and why this judge would see some evidence, right? That's what they claim. There's some evidence there, because it's not substantial. So that means there is some. See some evidence of fraud, conflicts of interest, whatever it may be, and say, I don't care. I don't care at all. Why? What is wrong with these people? I don't get it, y'all, but maybe I'm just naive. Y'all let me know down in the comments. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank y'all for watching. Y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.